Long, long ago, in a peaceful village nestled among rolling hills, there lived a very old woman. Her hair was as white as freshly fallen snow, and her face was a beautiful map of kind, gentle lines. But it was her eyes that truly held her spirit. They were bright, shining, and filled with a deep, comforting warmth. The villagers all loved her dearly. Even when times were tough, she always had a cheerful spirit. She lived by herself in a cozy little cottage, right next to a massive ancient banyan tree. She had no children, and her husband had passed away many years before. Yet you would never hear a word of complaint from her. She found joy in the simple things, like sitting under the shade of the banyan tree, chatting with anyone who passed by, always with a ready smile. Life in the village wasn't easy. The people worked hard every single day. Some were farmers, tilling the land from sunrise to sunset. Others were skilled carpenters, and many sold their goods in the small, bustling marketplace. But hardship was a frequent visitor. Sometimes the rains wouldn't come, and the fields would turn to dust. Other times, sickness would spread, leaving families without a way to earn their keep. Life was a constant struggle, and it was natural for many villagers to feel worried and unhappy. One afternoon, a young woman named Radha, her face streaked with tears and etched with fear, came to the old woman's cottage. She was sobbing, her shoulders shaking. "I don't know what to do," she cried. "My husband went to the city to find work, but we haven't received any money. My children are hungry, and I'm so scared." The old woman looked at Radha with her warm, kind eyes and offered a gentle smile. "Sit down, my child," she said softly. "Tell me, what is it that you think will happen?" Radha wiped her tears with the back of her hand and whispered, "I don't know. I just have this feeling that something awful is about to happen. What if my husband can't find a job? What if he has forgotten about us?" The old woman slowly shook her head, her expression full of compassion. "When we fill our minds with negative thoughts, my dear, our pain only grows heavier. But when we choose to hold on to hopeful thoughts, our hearts feel lighter, and sometimes that lightness is what allows good things to find their way to us." Radha looked up, her eyes still filled with doubt. "But how can I think positively when everything around me feels so dark?" The old woman's smile deepened. "Let me tell you a little story," she said, her voice like a soft melody. Radha leaned in, listening intently. The old woman began, "Once, there was a man who was desperately poor. He had no food, no money, and no family to call his own. He sat by a river, weeping, feeling completely lost. An old woman, much like me, came and asked him why he was crying. He told her, 'I have nothing. How can I possibly be happy?' The woman smiled and said, 'You have the river that flows, the trees that give you shade, and the sunlight that warms your skin. Look around you, life and beauty are everywhere. If you only focus on what you don't have, sadness will be your constant companion. But if you focus on what you do have, peace will find a home in your heart.'" The man listened to her words, and slowly his tears stopped. He started to notice the simple beauty around him, and from that day forward his life began to change for the better. The old woman then turned her gaze back to Radha. His life didn't change because of some magic spell. It changed because his thoughts changed. Positive thinking doesn't make our problems disappear, but it makes our hearts lighter and gives us the strength to face our hardships. Radha's expression shifted from despair to curiosity. "Can my thoughts really change my life?" she asked, a flicker of hope in her voice. The old woman nodded gently. "Yes, they can. If you wake up each morning and tell yourself, 'Today will be a good day,' you will find the strength you need to care for your children and to wait for your husband with a hopeful heart. But if you only dwell on the fear of what might go wrong, you will feel weak and drained." Radha took a deep breath, and the small nod showed she understood. She left the old woman's home that day, feeling a sense of relief she hadn't felt in weeks. From then on, every morning she would remember the old woman's advice and whisper to herself, "Today will be a good day." She worked hard in her small garden. She played with her children, and she prayed for her husband's safe return. A few weeks later, a letter arrived. It was from her husband. He had found a good job in the city and was sending money home. Radha was overwhelmed with joy. She ran straight to the old woman's cottage to share the wonderful news. The old woman listened, her face beaming with a knowing smile. "You see," she said, "when we think positively, we create a space for good things to enter our lives. Problems will always come and go, but it is with hope in our hearts that we find the power to overcome them." Word of Radha's stories spread through the village like a gentle breeze. Soon, other villagers began visiting the old woman with their own troubles. She offered each of them the same simple, profound guidance. And one by one, her words began to transform their lives, teaching them the incredible, life-changing power of positive thinking. The village, once so often shadowed by worry, began to fill with a new kind of light, the light of hope. Thank you for watching. If this story touched your heart, please like, share, and subscribe for more inspiration.